Hey guys, welcome to Studio 316. This is the 7 types of logos. My name is Jonathan Bonilla and I'm a graphic designer and marketer. And often I found telling stories about other businesses, entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and nonprofit organizations. And I do so with the power of creative media. In a nutshell, I make companies look great so they can stand out in a sea of sameness. So let's get down to business. And what I want to talk to you guys about today is the 7 types of logos. So this is not an exhaustive list, but this is going to give you a general idea of how to get started or what to pick if you're getting started with your business, or maybe you want to do a logo redesign and you're looking at possibilities, or you have a dream for a company to come true and you don't know how you want that brand to look like. Well, my hope is that by the end of this presentation, you'll be able to see a wide range of ideas and then pick and choose, sort of like the mainstream where you want your logo to head down the road. So we're gonna look at 7 types of logos, and we have a mundane, abstract mark, mascot logo, combination mark, emblem, letter mark, pictorial mark, and word mark. So what we'll do is we'll look at each one of these, and we're just gonna talk about the cons and pros for each one of them, and hopefully this will clear up your mind in making a decision. So let's get started with the monogram logos. So some key points about monogram logos are that they're effective, they are typography oriented, so they're typographic. They generally evoke the idea of a brand ID, so they tell what the brand is about right off the bat. And one of the key features too is that they are memorable, so you will know what I'm talking about just in a few seconds. So let's read about the monogram logos. So monogram logos, or letter marks, or logos that consist of letters. So monograms, letters. Usually brand initials like IBM, CNN, HP, HBO, things like that. You notice a pattern, right? These are like the initials of like famous businesses out there that have very lengthy names. So they just kind of like abbreviated and then made those letters the mark for that business. So with 2 or 3 words to remember, it makes it really easy for the consumer to remember your brand. So they each turn to using their initials for brand identification purposes. So it makes perfect sense for them to use monograms, and sometimes they call letter mark logos to represent their organizations. Now, because the focus is on initials, the font you choose or create is very important, because this can make or break your logo. It's not only a known theme with what the company does, but it should also be legible. So when you print on business cards, for example, it has to be legible enough that you can go very small or very big. Also, if you're not an established business already, you may want to add full business name below the logo so that people can begin to learn who you are right away. So let's take a look at some samples of what a monogram logo looks like, and that's HBO, for example, or IBM, or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration. So we're not saying, hey, I'm gonna go watch something that just came up on the home box office. Right now we say HBO, right? Because we had gotten to know HBO just by these initials. So just something to think about. So let's move on to our second type of logo. These are the watermarks or logo types. Now, similar to a letter mark, a watermark or logo type is a font-based logo. So the focus is the fonts. So it focuses on the business names alone. Now think about Visa or Coca-Cola, for example. Now watermark logos work really well when a company has a succinct or distinct name. Google's logo is a great example of this. The name itself is catchy and memorable, so when combined with strong typography, the logo helps create a strong brand recognition. So, um, one of the key highlights of a word mark or logo type it is that it's font based, it's strong, it has strong typography, heavy brand recognition. It helps with brand recognition, and it's clean. It's very polished. So we're thinking about Coca-Cola, Google, or Visa. Now consider a lettermark logo if your business happens to have a long name. Now condensing the business name into initials will help you simplify your design, and likewise, customers will have an easier time recalling your business name and your logo. Now, a word mark, it's a good decision if you are a new business and you need to get your name out there. Now, just make sure that that name is short enough to take advantage of the design as well. Anything that's too long can be too cluttered. Now, a word mark logo, it's a good idea if you have a distinct business name that will stick in customers' mind, right? Having your name is great. Design font will make your brand all the stickier. Now, both lettermark and wordmark logos are easy to replicate across marketing materials and branding, thus making them highly adaptable options for a new and development business. Now, just one thing that you want to remember is that you will want to be scrupulous about when creating a lettermark or wordmark. Your business name is in a font alone likely won't be distinct enough to capture the nuance of your brand. So make sure that you hire a professional who have an eye for detail and that will make you something that's very inspiring and very catchy. Now let's move on to our other options, which is the pictorial mark or logo symbols. Now, pictorial mark sometimes is called brand mark or logo symbol. Is an icon or graphic based logo, and it's probably the image that comes to mind when you think, oh, logo. The iconic, for example, Apple, like the Apple logo, the Twitter bird, or the Target bullseye. Each of these companies' logos is so emblematic, and each brand so established that the mark alone is instantly recognizable. A true brand mark is only an image. Now, because of this, it can be a tricky thing to have, a tricky logo for new companies. Now, or for those who are like without a strong brand recognition, they're not known yet. But this is all about the risk, right? The more risk you take sometimes, the more memorable it is. You want to play safe, sometimes it's a little bit too lame. Now, the biggest thing to consider when deciding to go with a pictorial mark is what image to choose. This is something that will stick with your company for the entire existence of it. Now, you need to think about the broader implications of the image you choose. Now, do you want to play, on your name, like, John Deere, or are you looking to create, deeper meaning, thinking how the snapshot ghost tells us that the product does, what the product does, right? Or do you want to evoke an emotion, as the World Wildlife Foundation does with their style-sized image of a panda? It's an adorable little panda that's an endangered species. So they are evoking a message, but just remember that you're going to marry this idea forever. Now, the symbol and the what is key about a pictorial mark is that it's symbolic, it's an icon, and it's recognizable, and it's also wild. So let's take a look at some of those samples. So some of them are Target, the bird from Twitter, and the Apple logo. So we have many options here, but just think about that for a second. Now let's move on quickly to the very next one, which is the abstract logo marks. Now, an abstract mark is a specific type of pictorial logo. Instead of being a recognizable image like an apple or a bird, it's an abstract geometric form that represents your business. Now, a few famous examples include the BP Starburst logo, or the Pepsi divided circle, or the stripped Adidas flower. Now, Like all symbols, abstract marks work really well because they condense your brand into a single image. However, instead of being restricted to a picture of something recognizable, abstract logos all allow you to create something truly unique to represent your brand. Now, the the benefit of an abstract mark is that you're able to convey what your company does symbolically now without relying on the cultural implications of a specific image. Through color and form, you can contribute meaning and cultivate emotion around your brand. As an example, think about how the Nike swoosh implies movement and freedom. So let's take a look at some of the abstract logo marks. Did you have an idea about your logo to be an abstract shape? Well, this is a wild approach, but it's very valid in the competition for brands. So let's take a look at the next one, which is mascots. Now, mascots logos are logos that involve an illustrated character. Now, often colorful, sometimes means cartoonish, and most always is fun. And the mascot logo, it's a great way to create your very own brand spokesperson or spokes character, for example. Some key features is that it's an illustrated character, it's cartoonish, it's fun, and it's basically audience oriented. So it gives the brand an opportunity to play along with the customer and to interact with the customer at a deeper level. Now, a mascot is simply an illustrated character that represents your company. So think of him as the ambassador for your business. Famous mascots include the Kool-Aid Man, KFC's Colin and Planters Mr. Peanut, and so forth. Now, mascots are great for companies that want to create a wholesome atmosphere by appealing to families and children. So think of those mascots at the sporting events, for example, or the great dynamic. Aren't they great? Like and dynamic. They create like movement and good vibes. So let's take a look at some of the ideas for mascots. So we have the Kool-Aid, KFC, and Mr. Peanut. But if this is not ringing some bells in your mind, do you have a mascot in mind? Now let's take a look at the combination mark. Now, the combination mark is a logo comprised of a combined word mark and letter mark and a pictorial mark, an abstract mark, or a mascot. Now, the picture and text can be laid outside side by side, is stacked on top of each other, or integrated together to create an image. Some well-known combination marks include Doritos, Burger King, or Lacoste. They're versatile, texty, iconic, and they have a mascot most of the time. They're easy to trademark because, what are the chances that someone will, design a crocodile the same way Lacoste has done it? And the logos are very flexible. Now, because the name is associated with the image, a combination mark is a versatile choice. In my opinion, one of the most. With both the text and icon or mascot working together to reinforce your brand. Now, with a combination mark, people will also begin to associate your name with your pictorial mark or mascot right away. In the future, you may be able to rely exclusively on a logo symbol and not have to always include your name, for example, which is great. Also, because the combination of a symbol and text create a distinct image together, these logos are usually easier to trademark than pictorial marks alone. Let's take a look at some of the samples: Doritos, Lacoste, and Burger King. Now, let's move on to the emblem. The emblem is a logo that consists of a font inside a symbol or an icon. So think about badges, seals, and crests. These logos tend to have a traditional appearance about them, and that can make them very striking and impactful. Thus, they are often the go-to choice for many schools, organizations, government agencies. I would even include like soccer teams or teams in general. And the auto industry is also very fond of the emblem logos. While they have a classic style, some companies have effectively modernized the traditional emblem look with a logo design that fits the 21st century. So think about the Starbucks iconic mermaid emblem or the Harley Davidson's famous crest. So they're symbolic, they're traditional, high impact, they're bold, and they're mixed between font and symbols. So here are some of these samples. We have some crests and the Starbucks and Harley Davidson logo as well. Now, can you identify our type of logo? This is Studio 316 logo. This is my logo. We went through a brand redesign a few years ago, and this is where we came from. I will tell you straight what it is, but I want you to take a few seconds. Can you guess? Is it an abstract? Is it pictorial? Is it a combination? A font base? You know, what is it? Is it a mascot? Right? Think about that. I'm gonna give you 1, 2, 3 seconds. Done. Let's check it out. That's right. You guessed it right. It's a combination mark. So we have a combination mark, and this is really an abstract image. I won't go into the details of why we came up with this logo, but I'm a believer, and I believe on Jesus being the cornerstone of creation. So if you look at the of where this place meets, it's like a 3D form of a corner of a building of two walls being integrated by one particular stone. Now, in architecture, if you take off this stone particularly, the building should collapse or something like that. But that's the idea, what we wanted to convey. It's an abstract image. No other business has these type of images. I really liked it. I made it abstract. It's really easy to trademark, and it's very hard for someone else to come up or to like think about having a logo design that's similar to it. But I also added typography because for me it's very important that I have that versatility. And so what I'm using right now is a mix between typography and a symbolic abstract logo. And there are many ways that you can use that logo moving on. So this is why I always recommend to people, I mean, if possible, to do a versatile logo that contains different forms. Now, this depends on your budget. Maybe you don't have the budget to go all ballistic and do all these modifications. But if you do, I will advise always to try to come up with a logo that's versatile, that you can print it on a pencil, and that also you can print it on a billboard, and you can tell from miles away or from very close to your eyes that is your brand that's being represented. So that's it, guys. I hope this information was helpful and handy to you, and that will help you make a decision into how or where or how you want your logo to look like. Now, if you would like to connect, if you have any questions about logos and pricing and ideas and revisions and how to work with either a consultant, a student, your uncle, the friend, or you want to take a stab at and try to design your logo, let's connect. I mean, I have some pros and cons specifically on expertise and price of why someone should do it, someone should not do it. But depending on where in your career, in your business length you are, different solutions should be presented. So perhaps you don't have the budget to hire a design agency, but you can work with a consultant, and they can give you sort of like somewhat the same experience. Go for it. But these are the questions that I want to try to answer for you. So if you have any questions, just drop them off on the comments here on YouTube, and I'll be more than happy to connect with you and answer to as many people as I can. Again, this is Jonathan from Studio 316.